After watching the Avengers Infinity War trailer number 1 an exact 71 times, after watching the Avengers Infinity War trailer number 2 an exact 67 times, I think I cracked the entire story of the entire movie Avengers Infinity War. Welcome to Call Me Chris. My name is Chris Ojo, and if you're new here, consider subscribing so that you can get more Avengers Infinity War content just like this one. And for my subscribers, turn on the notifications so that you don't miss a future upload. Like this video, share this video with your friends as well to show your support to the channel. Now, everything that I say in this video is based off all the trailers and TV spots that we've seen so far, off of some set photos, off of some stuff that we've heard over on Comic-Con, etc, etc, etc. So let's just get straight into it. And also, this is going to be a major spoiler video, so if you don't want to know what happens or potentially happens in Avengers Infinity War, then click away, but if not, then continue with the video. So the movie starts off where Thor Ragnarok leaves, and this is when Thanos and the Black Order turn up in their big ship, approaching Thor, Loki, Valkyrie inside their Asgardian ship. And Thanos and the Black Order are approaching the Asgardian ship simply because they are simply after the Space Stone, and they know that Loki is linked with the Space Stone. So my personal guess is that Thor tasked Valkyrie to get the remaining Asgardians off the ship safely and somewhere safe. I don't know where, but she's gone, she's out the movie for good. And I say the remaining Asgardians simply because Thanos and the Black Order, when they approach Thor's ship, they're gonna kill a bunch of the Asgardians, as we see in the Avengers Infinity War trailer. We see a bunch of dead bodies. We see Corvus Glaive stepping over a bunch of dead bodies. My guess is that these are Asgardians. Also in this scene, Hulk is thrown down to Earth. And as we see in the trailer 2 for Avengers Infinity War, Loki is at the mercy of the Black Order inside the Thor ship. Speaking of mercy, Thor is at Thanos' mercy, and he warns Loki that if Loki doesn't give him the Tesseract, which holds the Space Stone, then he's going to kill Thor on the spot. So Loki hands over the Tesseract to Thanos to save Thor's life, just like we see in the trailers. And also, just like we see in the trailers, Thanos crushes the Tesseract with one hand just to get the Space Stone out of the Tesseract. And he puts the Space Stone into his Infinity Gauntlet. And we also see that in the Infinity Gauntlet, as he puts in the Space Stone in the trailer, we see that he already has the Power Gem. But I'm guessing that we're not going to see Thanos retrieving the Power Gem in this movie. We're just going to hear it through some exposition. That is my theory. In the trailer, we see that Thanos is squeezing Thor's head. There's a theory going around that this is not actually Thanos squeezing Thor's head, but this is actually Thanos forcing Thor to watch the execution of Loki. And that is what I think is going on. I personally believe this theory. So Thor can't bear the sight of Thanos killing Loki, so he screams and he shuts his eyes so that he doesn't witness it, essentially. But then once Loki is dead, Thanos then throws Thor off the ship. And then once Thor is thrown off the ship and into space, we then cut to the classic Marvel Studios intro. Remember when I said that Thanos throws Hulk into space and onto Earth? Well, Hulk, we know, because of the trailer, he lands in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and this is of course the home of Doctor Strange. Hulk has now turned back to Dr. Bruce Banner, and Bruce Banner is now warning Wong and Doctor Strange about the incoming threat of Thanos. And Strange obviously knows about the Avengers, so he knows that obviously Banner and Tony are linked with each other. So maybe my guess is that Strange calls Tony over to the Sanctum to retrieve Hulk and essentially let Banner explain to Tony what's going on. So in the trailer that was shown at San Diego Comic-Con and also D23, we see Thor floating in space, but is met with the Guardians. The Guardians basically retrieve him and they wake him up, and that is how the Thor and the Guardians first meet. Thor explains to them what just happened, and then Gamora explains to Thor who Thanos is, and this is then when we see the flashback scene we see in the trailer of Gamora and Thanos. We see that Thanos is taking Gamora in her home world, and this is when we're going to see the execution of Gamora's entire planet, where Thanos kills her entire race. Now that the Guardians know that Thanos is now after the Infinity Stones, they decide to split up into two teams. One team, we have Drax, Star-Lord, Gamora, and Mantis. And they're off to retrieve the Reality Stone because they know that they left the Reality Stone with the Collector. Thor, Rocket, and Groot are off to create Thor's new weapon, which is of course Stormbreaker. And Rocket, we know, can help with that because he's a tech genius. He can create things. But Thor realizes that he cannot defeat Thanos without a weapon, so that is why he needs a weapon. That's why he feels that he needs a weapon. That's why Rocket, Groot, and Thor go up to create Thor's new weapon. So back on Earth, Tony Stark arrives at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, and he arrives with a phone in his hand, as we see in the trailer. But my guess is that this phone is the same phone that Steve Rogers gave Tony at the end of Captain America Civil War. This is Tony calling Steve, because remember at the end of Civil War, Steve said to Tony that if Tony ever needed him, he should just give him a call. So once Bruce warns Tony about the incoming threat of Thanos, Tony calls Steve to warn him about what's been going on. He basically calls Steve for help. My guess is that he's telling Steve, or he's tasking Steve, to gather up the entire Avengers and take them to Avengers HQ. Meanwhile, outside the Sanctum, one of Thanos' ships that turns up in New York, it does some damage. We don't know what kind of damage it does, but we don't know why it's there. There's not enough context, there's not enough information out there for us to theorize what's going on. The end result is that it eventually leaves Earth and goes up into space. And this is where Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is introduced into the movie. Peter is on his way to school, but he sees this giant Thanos ship, so he wants to go and inspect what it is. He puts on his classic Spidey suit from Homecoming. He goes to the ship goes up, and he goes up with the ship. But Tony comes out of the Sanctum. He sees that Peter is going up with the ship into space. So Tony calls the Iron Spider suit to automate itself to go onto Peter Parker's body. And the reason why Tony calls the Iron Spider suit onto Peter is just for protection, essentially, because he's going up into space. So essentially what happens next is then Tony and Doctor Strange both go after that ship that is going up into space. And remember that torture scene in the trailer between Doctor Strange and Ebony Maw? Well, I think that Ebony Maw is actually on this ship, the very ship that Tony, Peter, and Doctor Strange are on. So after some exploring, they split up, and somehow Ebony Maw captures Doctor Strange, and he sees that Doctor Strange has the Time Stone with the Eye of Agamotto. So he tortures Doctor Strange to get the Eye of Agamotto, and he eventually succeeds, and that is how the Eye of Agamotto is retrieved from Doctor Strange. So back on Earth, we're now with Scarlet Witch and Vision. We see that scene where Vision is in his human form. They're just having a moment, essentially. But that moment is interrupted by the Black Order. Because in the Comic-Con trailer, we see that the Black Order, specifically Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, both attack where Vision and Scarlet Witch are being held. And this is where Corvus Glaive attempts to get the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead, but he ultimately fails at this point. I don't think they get the Mind Stone at this point, simply because, remember when I said Tony called Cap for help? He called Cap to task him to retrieve all the Avengers. So he goes after Vision. He knows where Scarlet Witch and Vision are staying. So he goes there and he finds that Vision is being tortured or being harassed. So he, referring to Cap, Black Widow and Falcon turn up to help take down the Black Order, more specifically Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. And I say Black Widow and Falcon simply because Black Widow is seen with Proxima Midnight's spear in the first Avengers Infinity War official trailer that was released, using Proxima Midnight's spear against her, and it looks like it's in the same location where Vision is getting the Mind Stone, attempting to rip it from his forehead. And I say Falcon too because in the Comic-Con trailer we see Falcon fighting Proxima Midnight in this same location. So Team Cap are essentially successful in saving Vision, and they retreat to Avengers HQ. And when they reach Avengers HQ, this is when they meet up Rhodey, who is now walking on two legs, maybe with Wakandan technology or with Tony Stark industry technology. I don't know. We just have to wait and see. But this is essentially where Rhodey comes into the movie. And this is also where they meet up with Bruce Banner. So maybe when Tony and Doctor Strange went up into space with the spaceship, Bruce went over to Avengers HQ. Maybe Tony told him to go there to meet up with Steve. That's probably what I'm thinking. And this is when we get the reunion of Bruce and Black Widow. So they try to talk out their differences, yada, yada, yada. So they head over to Avengers HQ to get the Quinjet so that they can head over to Wakanda for protection, and also to get the Wakanda's help to extract the Mind Stone safely from Vision's forehead. And in the process, Bruce collects one of Tony's Hulkbuster armors in the Avengers HQ, simply because he doesn't want to turn into Hulk again. In leaked footage, we see Thanos attempting to get the Reality Stone from the Collector, so it looks like Thanos beat the Guardians to it. And also in this leaked scene, the Guardians are also there, but like I said, they're too little too late because Thanos is already there. Now, Drax, as we know, is still out for revenge because he blames Thanos for the death of his family. So he mindlessly just goes after Thanos, and this is going to be the first time we see Gamora and Thanos interact with each other since Gamora left Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. But before that happens, after the Collector fails to convince Thanos that the Reality Stone is not there, he eventually gives in and tells Thanos where the Reality Stone is. So once Thanos gets the Reality Stone, he kills the Collector, and then is when we get the confrontation between the Guardians and Thanos. Now, I don't know what happens next. I don't know if they fight or if Thanos just leaves, I don't know, but it most likely will end in a fight due to Drax essentially going after Thanos. So here's how I feel the fight will end. I feel that Thanos is gonna open a portal. He's gonna attempt to leave because he doesn't see them as a challenge. So he's gonna just think that they're not worth fighting. So he's gonna just carry on with his mission. So he's gonna leave to Titan. But the Guardians manage to hold him off. They enter into that very portal, and that is how they get into Titan before Thanos. They manage to somehow slow him down. But of course, Thanos eventually gets into Titan, but of course the Guardians get there first. And this is where the Guardians first of all meet up with Iron Man, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So with the short time that Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax and Mantis have before Thanos arrives, they quickly form a plan, just like we see in the trailer 2, where Star-Lord and Iron Man are fighting over who has the plan, who gets to come up with the plan. But eventually Thanos recovers, he enters through that portal, and then he fights the heroes on the planet Titan. So in this battle, Thanos slams Spidey just like we saw in the trailer. He destroys most of Iron Man's armor just like we saw in the trailer, and he's also about to kill Iron Man with the line, and I quote, "I hope they remember you." And this is when I think he's going to throw the moon. We've seen an official photo released already of Thanos throwing the moon, but it was also shown in the Comic-Con trailer, a full clip of Thanos throwing a moon. So once Thanos throws the moon at the heroes are essentially defeated, so Thanos can now continue on with his mission. He now gets word that the Mind Stone has still not been retrieved. The Mind Stone got away from the Black Order, so he goes to get the Mind Stone himself. But before he leaves Titan, Ebony Maw comes to him and he gives Thanos the Time Stone, as Ebony Maw collected it from Doctor Strange when he tortured him. So then what happens next is maybe Tony calls Steve to give him an update on what just happened, and maybe Steve gives Tony an update on what's happening over on his side. So maybe Tony tells Steve that they would join them when they can, when they're regrouped essentially. Back in Thanos' point of view, he's now on his ship preparing the invaders to collect the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead in Wakanda. Now let's talk a bit about the Soul Stone, because this is a mystery. We don't know if it's on Wakanda. We don't know if the theory that Iron Man has the Soul Stone is true. We actually know nothing about it. But this is just my theory, so don't take my word for it. But this is just my theory. I feel that in order to get the Soul Stone, Thanos must first of all collect all the other Infinity Stones and then kill someone to create the Soul Stone. That is just my guess. Let's just say my theory is true. That is how Thanos is attempting to collect the Soul Stone. So he needs to get the Mind Stone first before he can get the Soul Stone. And this is going to play a crucial role in the Captain America and Thanos scene we saw at the end of trailer 2 of Avengers Infinity War. Team Cap are now in Wakanda. They're greeted by Black Panther, aka T'Challa. Vision is taken to Shuri so that Shuri can help get the Mind Stone out of his forehead safely. And now the rest of the team are now preparing for the incoming battle against Thanos and his invaders. So the invaders eventually enter Wakanda. The final battle happens. Team Tony, after some regrouping, enter into the fight through some teleportation from Doctor Strange. Team Thor eventually enter the fight too. And Thanos, during this final battle, eventually finds Vision before Shuri can extract the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead, and as he does so, he kills Vision. So Vision is one of the casualties from Thanos in this movie, and we're going to get to the second one in just a bit. So now that Thanos has all the Infinity Stones apart from the Soul Stone, he now goes after the Soul Stone by killing someone off. And Thanos runs into none other than, you guessed it, the man himself, Captain America. So the two share a scene, they share a moment, they exchange a few lines of dialogues, and then they go at it. They share a battle scene with each other. And Thanos attempts to kill Cap by essentially going after him, but Cap essentially just grabs his hand and then holds him off. Thanos is surprised, but he's also not putting 110% in it. He wants to see how much Captain America can hold him off before he eventually just ends it. And my theory is that he does eventually end it. He kills Captain America. In an official image, we see Bucky raging at something, but in this official image, it looks like it's in the exact same location as where Steve and Thanos are having their little battle. So whether or not this image of Bucky is taken after Cap is dead, or whether or not this is before Cap's dead, remains to be seen. But I'm guessing that this could be just after Cap is dead and he's raging at Thanos. He's raging towards Thanos. He's about to start shooting Thanos to bits, basically. But of course, that's not going to affect him because Thanos is now all powerful since he has the Soul Stone, since he killed Cap to create the Soul Stone. And here's where it gets interesting. Here is where it gets interesting. So, as Bucky is shooting Thanos, he just doesn't care. He just, because he knows he's won. He's got all the stones. So he raises his hands in the air and does the famous click. And then the movie is done. That is how the Avengers Infinity War, in my eyes, is going to go down. Now, there are a few things that I have left out, such as the appearance of Captain Marvel, because the Russo brothers, I quote, confirmed. I say that because we don't know, because sometimes they're confirming it, sometimes they're denying it. So I don't know if Captain Marvel is going to be in this movie, but from the latest reports, they apparently confirm that she is in this movie. But if she is, then I don't know where she's going to fit in. So that is why I didn't talk about Captain Marvel in this video, essentially. So the other thing that I left out is Hawkeye, and that's because I want to talk about him right now. Now, Hawkeye, his arc, and this is confirmed, by the way, by the Russo brothers, his arc essentially is a solo arc. He's on a spiritual journey. Now, in the Avengers Infinity War prelude comic, which is tied to the actual movie, is canon to the movie, in that comic, it's confirmed that he's now gone back into retirement. So, in this movie, my guess is that he's spending the entire movie out of retirement. But when Thanos does the famous click and wipes half the universe out of existence, it wipes his entire family out of existence, and this is going to transform him into Ronin into Avengers 4. So that is the theory I have with Hawkeye. And the other notable thing that I haven't spoken about in this video is Ant-Man, and that is because I just don't think Ant-Man is going to be in this movie. I just don't think he is. So what do you guys think? Do you think this entire story theory that I pieced together from the leaked images, from the leaked photos, from the set photos, from the trailers, TV spots? Do you think this is true? Do you think this is in fact the entire story of Avengers Infinity War? Let me know what you guys think. Share your thoughts down below in the comments. So if you like this video, give this video a big thumbs up, because this was just so much work to put together. I can't believe I actually made this video, but I just did. There you go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys later for more videos.